And you are listening to The Business Show on Radio Blue Mountains, and it's our pleasure to welcome back Rob Lees from Mortgage Choice Blue Mountains and Penrith. Welcome, Rob.
Good afternoon.
See you again.
So we're talking to the budget today.
Yeah, big week in finance last week.
Yeah, that's right.
The economy more.
That's right. Yeah. Go on about the into the monetary stuff. I'm a bit more quiet, but no, budget. That's very important.
Budget is very important. So let's. What's the lowdown, Rob?
Well, I guess the big challenge for the federal government was number one, they needed to present an economic plan that was going to get them elected on the 2nd of July. So, I mean, not that they'd flagged at that stage that the election was going to come. So there needed to be enough sweeteners there to convince the electorate to vote for them. And then I think the second challenge really was that they needed to convince particularly the international rating agencies that Australia should still be on a AAA rating. So it was about dealing with the budget deficit. So how did they do?
Quite a tricky charter for anyone.
Yeah,
like, let's just forget who they are and what policies and what
I wouldn't want that job.
You've got debt, and we've got certain parameters there, but we're also trying to make people happy as well.
When you're in debt, you've got to clear the debt, and you're never going to make decisions that people are going to like because it means cost cutting.
Yeah,
that's right, and the economy does need stimulation.
Yeah.
And a lot of people may not be aware that we've actually had 3 months of negative inflation, so deflation.
Well, hence the RBA.
Well, that's right. And that's why the RBA cut rates by 0.25%. We're on the edge of a recession, so we do need stimulation. We need economic stimulation. So the Treasurer's speech, jobs and growth, jobs and growth, jobs and growth, I think he said it 300,000 times, is what we need. We do need jobs and growth. Will what they've set out do that? Well, time will tell. But we do need, in terms of what they've done, they've delivered tax cuts. That's the sweetener, I guess. And a lot of those have gone to small business. So hopefully small business will use those tax cuts to create more jobs, put more money into the economy. But of course, time will tell. They're going to save money and hitting the smokers with more tax. And there's a bunch of other reforms that are going to help to sort of promote innovation and stuff like that. But in terms of the deficit, well, the deficit's actually increasing up to about almost 40 billion.
Wow.
Big numbers, up from 35, and it's not going to be till 2021 that they've projected us being back to surplus. So will the international rating agencies be convinced by that? Again, time will tell. Why is the debt so high, and what point did it blow out? Like for a layman like me who's a little bit lost. Might be getting a bit political there.
Is it
government spending, and a lot of it came out of the post-GFC. And economically, the way to stimulate, there's a lot of ways you can stimulate an economy. One of those is interest rates. So, monetary policy, the price of money. The other's fiscal policy, which is government spending. So, spending up big was all in an effort to stimulate the economy. But the problem with that is then we've gone further and further into deficit.
Right.
So this is the balancing act that they've got. And, we get the spin from both sides of politics. And I wouldn't want to have to be in that job and try and work it out.
No, I was just thinking exactly the same. It just reiterates what I said before. I wouldn't want that job for quids.
No. So it's a tough line.
But we live isn't it?
That's right. And look, going into recession is a big worry. Deflation is a big worry because if you think about it, we don't want to go down that track. So once we get negative inflation, if you think about it, the economy works better if we're running at about a 2% inflation, 2 to 3 growth in the economy, 2 to 3%. If you think about negative inflation, if just take debt for example, if debt gets lower relatively speaking as we get inflation. So if you took out a loan 10 years ago and we keep getting inflation, that loan really is not worth as much now. But if you get deflation, what happens is that loan relatively speaking gets higher. And also what happens if the price of goods and services are going down in value, it actually puts you off buying. If you knew that you could put off buying a good or service for 6 months and it was going to be cheaper, what would you do?
Yeah. 100%.
You put it off.
God, yeah.
And so this is the worry. We've got to stimulate. I was telling my wife about this the other day, and I was saying, you go out shopping, do your bit for the economy. And we're saving more than spending at the moment.
Yeah.
This is from an economic point of view in terms of the things that help our economy.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're all a bit nervous.
Yeah,
That's that
right.
whole consumer
That's right.
confidence thing, isn't
That's
it?
right. And again, with an election looming as well.
And what about changes to superannuation?
Yeah, well, superannuation, big changes there. I might bring Tim Heyman, our financial planner, on in a few weeks' time to go through this in a
idea.
little bit more detail
Yep.
while I'm overseas. I'm mentioning it, France and Italy.
Yes.
Throw it in. And, there's the one that I think really hurts, and I don't really get it, is that they're cutting the interest-free, like right now, you're able to roll over your superannuation to pension stage, and if you're over 60, that income's tax-free. That is going to be taxed in the future. That really is a disincentive and takes away a lot of income from self-funded retirees. The concessional caps, that's the before tax contributions have also been cut to $25,000 a year, although it can be carried forward over 5 years. There's a whole lot of changes in that space. And the problem with playing around with those sorts of rules is people put strategies in place and then the rules change. And so we'll get Tim in to sort of go through that in a little bit more detail.
That is definitely the worst thing about super, isn't it? That you're right. You think you know what you're doing and you're going to look after your retirement, and then
Yep, and it's capped at 1.6 million, so you can't roll over more than 1.6 million into your pension stage. 1.6. I had a client with 1.6 mil in their super, and they were drawing 100,000 a year. So that's not bad. So putting a cap on that, but they are big changes, and it's trying to tax the high end of town that's been using superannuation as a way to minimise their tax liability.
Yep. What else have we got? Employment incentives. Anything exciting in there?
There's a few employment incentives there. I mean, they're trying to encourage innovation and all that sort of thing. Where are my notes? So one of those things is to expand the CSIRO's accelerator program. That includes cybersecurity growth and so on. And also, remember we talked about fintech?
Yes.
Fintech products.
Yes.
And I told you you'd notice it all the time.
Yes.
Have you noticed it?
I have noticed it a couple of times.
So here we are. So the government in this has signalled their intention to foster the development of fintech products and services via this CSIRO research. So there's a whole lot of things happening there, and also youth employment. So there's a big program there that of $840 million, which is a youth employment initiative, and it's trying to get young people the experience and the skills they need to become employable. So there's a lot of things there, and there's some good programs. It is spending, and these are the things that are putting us in deficit, but hopefully it is going to create jobs and growth.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Now you're starting to sound like the treasurer.
I almost sound like a politician.
Is there any other important changes that people need to be aware of?
Look, they're probably the main thing. I mean, there's infrastructure spending. Of course, we've been here.
What does that mean?
Infrastructure, things like Badgerys Creek. So again, here in our area, we're opposed to a lot of that. A lot of people, but it's going to be good for our economy locally. And 115 million for Badgerys Creek Airport, $2 billion on a water infrastructure project. 5.6 billion on the Pacific Highway upgrade. Again, this is all about, it creates jobs.
It does.
So, they're things that we need. So infrastructure is the big spend projects.
And with the airport, I think, isn't more of the opposition now just about the 24-hour part of the airport, or is it just no airport altogether? I'm not quite caught up.
Probably a bit of both.
Yeah, right.
And I think it's more in relation to the flight paths over the mountains.
Correct.
To be honest, I'm not convinced that I didn't come over the mountains when I flew back in from Brisbane yesterday. It was a scenery I'd never seen before. I couldn't work out where I was. It was quite bizarre. And I have noticed at home once or twice, I think, there's a domestic plane. That's bizarre. So I do think they are sending a few over and testing out different things. So it was interesting, but
so there's a bit of spending on that. Yeah.
So
look, I'm not a politician. I get the jobs and growth. I actually think creating the things that stimulate growth are spending.
Yeah. And
there's spending there. Create initiatives that are creating more jobs. The big tax cuts are for businesses. So over 5 years or 10 years, lowering the company tax rate eventually down to 25%. Like as long as we in small business use that money to grow our businesses, these are the things that will stimulate the economy.
Yeah.
So look, there's good and bad there. On the downside, of course, those that struggle most, there's not much in there for them.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thank you for coming in, Mr. Lees.
Yeah.
Always
My
a pleasure.
pleasure.